if you're not teaching students in person, there's no way they're going to pay you as much as they would, online. And I think there are going to be a lot of parents that are like, I don't know, if they've been so convinced that the disease is so terrible, are they going to allow their children to go to live in those dormitories? And then on top of that, there's going to be people that lost their jobs that ordinarily would have been a no-brainer. They'd send their kids to college. What do you think happens to academia in the next 2-3 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have 2 kids and we're thinking about it ourselves, and there's no question it's a racket. It's part of the rat race, and the cost is astronomical now. So I think it's great that people are questioning this.
Why do you think it's a racket? That's a bold word.
Well, there's no question that, these institutions, just UC Davis, where I went and I graduated in 94. Half my classes were in temporary trailers, and now you go there and there's bubbling fountains and marble walkways. And it's just professors getting paid 85% for the rest of their life. And, just everything has increased and the cost has just gone up. So I think that's not really in the interest of educating kids. It's really in the universities building their reputation and, creating ivory towers, essentially. So
there are skills that you can only get at university or in some kind of formal institution. Like, I've traveled around the country and done a bunch with animal science programs. There are things that you want students to learn in a classroom, and then you want them to have the physical experience of being able to reach into a cow or see the feed or work on the dairy. But there are a whole bunch of things that can be instantly turned over to online education. And then you have to say, well, if we could find a way to replace some of the social maturation or that bridge between living with your parents and then living out on your own, I think universities could actually really stumble here.
It's a total valid point. So think about it. Would you spend $250,000 to send your kid to a school where the first 2 years are sitting in a room with 600 people and you never even talk to the professor anyways? You may as well be, somewhere in a closet online listening to that. I do a lot of career talks and career outreach, UC Davis and elsewhere. One thing I tell them is that if you want a career, let's say in ag tech, I've never personally hired a single person based on their grade point average or their curriculum, what classes they took. University, yeah, it's nice to see a particular kind of university and program, but I've never hired a person based on their GPA or their actual curriculum or how much physics or organic chemistry they had. I hire people based on what internships they had, what kind of practical experience they had, exactly as you said. And I'll continue to do that. And that's probably old school, but I'm going to maintain that. I think.
And maybe a big part of the chaos that I think is coming is because of the policies that HR has had in there as instituted into the large corporation. So as the corporation gets larger, you have more and more people you're trying to manage. So you've got to put in more rules that are cookie cutter as opposed to letting people be free. And I had to deal with the fact that if I wanted to pay the person, I was one time empowered to hire somebody, but if I wanted to pay them what I thought the job was worth for how much I was going to work that person, they had to have a master's degree. And I was like, look, they don't need a master's degree. That is a waste of time for what I need them to do. What I need them to do is work insanely hard because I have a lot for them to do. And if they do it, I'm happy to pay them for it. But you can't do that. They have to have a master's degree in order to be able to get the pay band. And that's because they don't trust you as an individual enough to decide how much they should get paid.
So you're missing all those intangibles, and just take professional sports, Joe Montana, people who were drafted, just based on a conversation or an interview or one, they didn't meet the criteria, but then they were tremendously successful. That's what this country is about, right? Is breaking the mold and going out. And you're right. So guess what? In Bayer right now, I would not meet the minimum requirements of an entry-level scientist because I don't have a PhD, even though even though I'm a science fellow and 25, 30 years of experience and have delivered, some would say, over $1 billion worth of genetic gain through some of my inventions. I would not meet the minimum requirements, and my application would not make it through the human resource software to even get an interview. That's the direction, things are going. And so, going back to university, I'm not sure where it's going to go.
And like for communications people, right? There are some skills that if you learned them at university, you had an art teacher, for example, that really helped you discover that you were good at graphic design, or for you to be able to learn how to do certain aspects of working in a professional environment like that, there's value there. But these schools are not designed as like preparatory schools teaching you how to dress up for class. They're not teaching you how to interact with adults in some better way. And for the most part, people go on to get all that education. They take on a whole bunch of debt. And if they get stuck behind a boss that sucks, they don't have a choice. They have to stay there because they got debts. And what parent is going to encourage what intelligent parent is going to tell their kid, try and play this game? I think you're going to win if you play it.
So doesn't this create a huge opportunity? I mean, should create a huge opportunity for either an industry or a startup or something that gets rid of all that and just goes out to a new model of of capturing talent and retaining talent. And again, it's kind of, I guess, in all my years of managing teams and hiring people, human motivation for me has been the most successful model. And that is, who is the person that is going to be motivated and want to be there in the job? And who's going to have that work ethic? And they're definitely not going to be perfect. And none of us are perfect. Absolutely fine. The question is, do you have those core, fundamental skills that are not taught in college, that really are life taught or experience taught? Do you have those to be able to do the job? And I just think it's a huge opportunity. We have to get away from this, but they're saying, oh, it's all artificial intelligence now. And probably these HR programs are all going to be artificial intelligence, selecting people for jobs without much input.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit though is the corporations that take that on first become the slow ones that, as long as you don't have regulations that keep other people out from building things, then they get out competed. And